The ruling UPND has distanced itself from the violent attack on the Patriotic Front Secretariat in Lusaka, condemning the incident and urging the police to bring all perpetrators to justice. UPND spokesperson and government chief spokesperson Cornelius Mweetwa told journalists in Lusaka that the party has no links to the suspected unruly youths involved in the attack, stressing that the UPND remains committed to peace and the rule of law. Mr. Mweetwa said the country will not return to the era of Caderism under President Hakainde Hichilema, describing any claims suggesting otherwise as misleading and unacceptable. Meanwhile, last week, Mweetwa MP Caderism declared Caderism back in Zambia.
Costa cross-examination is now in session.
Welcome to Sunday's Costa cross-examination. I'm your host. My name is Andrew Mwansa, sitting in for Costa Mwansa. Tonight we discuss the Caderism that seems to be back under the leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema. We discuss also the energy crisis that the country continues to face, but also we tackle issues around agriculture. Minister responsible for information and media, Honorable Cornelius Mweetwa, who also is Chief Government Spokesperson, joins me on tonight's edition of Costa. Minister, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Costa tonight.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for having me, and good evening to our dear viewers on Costa Live.
Costa cross-examination now in session. Minister, I would like to drive your attention to a video that was trending just a few days ago that declared Caderism back in Zambia. And this video was created by Mweetwa Member of Parliament, Honorable Caderism. I'd like for you to look at this video, Minister.
We sympathize with them. Kambo oguno swebo tuli bantu ibayanda hii ilumuno jindi jonse. Tuli bantu bayanda lumuno hii jindi jonse. So guli baba ya bonse bagapirwa marketeers yugujingola we are good to Impala, we are together. And we want to see. Ene guli baba ya impengele ya iba yon tobuyo minority group who were funded by criminals. Those thugs, we are not together. Wamana iguzwa ono dada kumwambira nonse iwamba kuti swebo alimi kutaligira go kuno kumonze. Caderism today has been declared. Bali guli konde, bali guli lingi, bali gumongo, bali guzipata, alimi bonse bali gugafiwe, alimi bali gugabwe, alimi bali gu northern province, alimi bonse bali gu northwestern province. Tuyanda kubandega sono, kambo kuzwa iji ndiba present nibagajita declare no Caderism. Uswani bagajita declare no Caderism. Wabona kwamba kuti wa president wabaterera, wabona kwamba kuti wa kubaiterera. Now we want to show them. Zambia. bonse iba kubaya ba president. Tuyanda kuoninga bonse iba kubaya ba president. Iba tukana ba president abusuba. Your days are numbered.
Honourable Minister, the Mweetwa Member of Parliament was very clear. I'm just been also informed that he's the UPND official district chairman for Monze district. I would like for us to begin from there, Minister. Why have you decided to return Caderism?
Thank you, Andrew. I must say that those statements that were issued by the Honourable Member of Parliament for Mweetwa, who is a district chairman for the UPND Monze, were unfortunate, they are regrettable, and were uncalled for. But then at the time that they were made, my opinion is that they were made out of a passionate reaction of what had transpired in Chingola. Notwithstanding that, those statements were inexcusable. And that is why the party responded quickly that no sooner had those statements been made than the Secretary General of the party, Honorable Batuke Emenda, held a media engagement with you, dear colleagues, the press, to let the nation know that those statements were not representative of the party position. And that was well said. And I'm here also to indicate on the behalf of government that being a member of Parliament on the ruling party ticket, those statements were not representative of government position, and in fact were and are at variance, diametrically at variance with the President's proclamation and position, which is the ruling position to date, that there will be no Caderism of the nature of political violence. So those statements have already and were actually nullified by the Secretary General, and that is the party position. You could see what was happening there was some kind of an emotive reaction. But we have called on our leaders, and I would like to reiterate now and place on record very clearly and categorically that when something has happened out there that injures our emotions as members of the party, for those who hold positions of leadership, they should know that they should always, before you engage the media, set aside personal emotions, because when you are in leadership, leaders should be immune to emotional reactions.
What is the communication structure like in the UPND? Because almost everybody in the UPND is speaking, and they're speaking different languages. Have you failed as spokesperson of the party to put the party together when it comes to communication?
Well, I mean, we communicate very systematically, and the channels of communication are well laid down and known, that when we speak as UPND, it is authorized office bearers with a mandate to speak on behalf of the party who will carry a message for the public. And I must also indicate here that sometimes people will speak as party officials and carry a message which is not representative of a party position. And it is the duty of my office and the duty of the office of the Secretary General, the Vice President of the party, and the President of the party, that once such statements which are at variance with party position and or not representative of the party position have been met, we come out and put the party position clear to the public. So it is that this particular statement which was made, as you can see, was made emotively and without consultations with the party, and the party immediately came out to give a party position. It happens in almost every party. That is why designated officers have to come out to say, this is now party position.
It could be understood for the Mweetwa Member of Parliament, because he made that statement in Mweetwa, in Monze district. But what about press briefings that are held at the party secretariat? How do you structure the statements that those speakers that are speaking, go with, to the media? Are they endorsed by the office of the Secretary General or the media director? Or perhaps even those that speak at the party headquarters sometimes speak in their own capacity?
Well, first of all, it has to be understood that the chief executive of the party, who is the chief spokesperson of the party, is the Secretary General. And under the Secretary General comes, in terms of representing party position, of course, outside that there is Vice President and the President. Outside the Secretary General is a party spokesperson, who is myself, who speak to represent party position. And then, below that are party structures at various levels who will speak representing a certain position of a structure at a certain level. For instance, Honorable Mweetwa, when he speaks, he will not speak as UPND Zambia. He speaks as UPND Lusaka Province.
But the message is endorsed by the UPND.
And if he says something which is not representative of the entire party, that is where now Secretary General or party spokesperson will come to bring in line what was said or intended to have been said to now represent the party. Otherwise, you will run the risk of, if we were to say every statement that has to be issued, imagine Chipata UPND district has to issue a statement, then it has to come to Lusaka, the party spokesperson to endorse, Solwezi, Kazungula. It will be a tedious program. So they speak to represent the jurisdiction of that particular locality within the strata of the party.
So they mustn't be quoted as UPND?
They have to be quoted as UPND and must speak in line with party position. If they go offside, then quickly the Secretary General, the party spokesperson, the Vice President or President will raise an alarm.
Deliberately, the reason I asked that question is to put to question the very individual you mentioned, Honorable Obvious Mweetwa, because he holds a party position, he's an official of the party, and so whatever he says, we take it as official party position. More importantly, if he issues statements from the party secretariat, which is the party headquarters, it's meant to believe that these messages have been endorsed by the party itself. I'll give an example of what he mentioned when he had the press briefing a few days ago. He mentioned that he is of the considered view that the president must fire, the police on the Copper Belt because of what happened in Chiwempala. Was that the party position?
Well, I would like to indicate here that there are two things that have to be understood here. Firstly, when you talk about what happened on the Copper Belt and the reaction of party membership, including those who did not make visible their reaction, there was some kind of emotive reaction, because what happened was not supposed to have happened. It was regrettable, unfortunate, and insidious, act of political insolence. It should not have been allowed to happen. And so for a person who came on the platform of presidency via a landslide victory, and because he is a president with a secure kind of tenure in terms of being a majoritarian voted president, he goes around to interact with citizens freely. And therefore, to take advantage of that freedom that he has granted to the citizens to interact, and you start throwing stones at him, his supporters had to react in a manner they did. Now, there were and could have been certain excesses in the reactions, which as a party, we do not, absorb ourselves and say, okay, this is right. No. Certain statements that were made could have been made by party structure officials. If they don't represent the president, they don't represent the party, we will say, yes, this was made by our official, but it's not party position, such as to say, if police have failed to protect the president,
we shall protect
shall protect the president. I would like to indicate that there is nothing like that. Once the president has been elected as head of state, there is state machinery and state security to take charge of the security of the president, and at no time shall UPND, supporters or cadres overrun state
that
security.
Doesn't represent the party position.
That, I have to put it in context. In context, in the sense that if it is at a public rally, a public rally, UPND supporters and all cadres, whatever the description, have the right to provide security to their president in terms of being present and ensure that a thing of that nature, which was unplanned and unanticipated, does not take place, but not to take charge of the security of President HH away from state apparatus security in the manner we saw before, where cadres were de facto
before you
the state security
digress, Minister,
of the president.
You're stating that what Honorable Mweetwa was stating doesn't represent the official party position.
What Honorable Mweetwa said in that regard
Yes.
was representing the feelings of party members who felt that we have given this president to you, state apparatus, to you, state security, to you, police. Look now that he is being stoned. And if this continues, we are bound to take action. It was more of sending a message than actually representing a party position that now relevant going forward, UPND will use their security to protect the president and not the state apparatus. We are a law-abiding, political party. The president we are talking about is not just the president of the UPND. This is a Republican president, the head of state, and therefore he is the seat of power of the nation, and his security is the charge of the republic.
So every time, according to what you're saying, every time a party official oversteps their jurisdiction in terms of making comments, the office of the SG and your office will be coming to the public to clarify and to dismiss or distance that position if it's not representative of the party. You'll be doing that every time a party official from the Eastern Province, a party official from Monze, and from across the country. That's what you're saying.
I mean, this is a job.
And doesn't that reflect a bad communication structure from the UPND itself?
This is the job for which we are appointed to hold those positions, to represent party position. It's just like in football. In football, that there's a referee who is going to blow the whistle and wave a yellow or red card if you offend the rules of play. Now, are you going to say that referees should get tired of blowing the whistle if there are fouls? Because that's the nature of the game. There will always be those who are going to have foul play. The referee's job is to say, no, you are offside. My job as party spokesperson and the job of the Secretary General is to blow the whistle for those party officials who carry the name tag of UPND when they're offside, who show the yellow card to the public. That the
reason I asked that was because I think some few weeks ago, your media director, Maximo, issued a directive that before anybody issues any statement, it must be endorsed by his office.
Well, that the job of the media director is to ensure that proper communication is done. The media directorate is a department under my office, and their job is to be the party mouthpiece on behalf of the party spokesperson, myself, and the Deputy Honorable Nkandu, because the media directorate, in other words, is also a research bureau with information that they must be able to respond to and or share with the public on hand, given that I, as party spokesperson, or the deputy party spokesperson, Honorable Elvis Nkandu, may not readily be available. So there is this stationed Media Directorate, which is on hand 100% full time at the party secretariat, to be able to respond to media queries. In the like manner, if I were to give an analogy, that for parliamentarians, it is known that they are busy, they are in parliament, they are doing all these chores, so there is an assistant to every MP who is housed in the office of the MP, the parliamentary office, to an extent that when you go to an MP's office, even if you don't find that elected member of parliament, you will find his assistant to give you relevant attention and or information as you may require. That's the job of the media director of the directorate of the UPND, is to be stationed at the party secretariat and at any given time be able to give attention to the media.
And ensure that before any communication goes to the public, they must be able to look through that information so that it is representative of the party position and doesn't mislead, what the party stands for, isn't it?
What the media directorate said is not something new. This is a position we have given before. He was reiterating in view of these statements that are coming, and especially that now that we are going to the general elections, we want a convergence of thought. So that is why that statement was given, because we don't want firefighting going forward.
Which you're doing right now, Minister.
Exactly. That is my job.
So are you telling me tonight and telling the viewers that party officials have been undermining the directive of the media director and the party itself? Because if the party says that before you go to the media and say what you want to say, we must be able to see through what you want to say for us to give a go-ahead. But this hasn't been happening because every time you're firefighting, Minister.
Remember that there is no political party which can have one office to have the monopoly of exiting what has to be said, because otherwise by so doing, we will gag our people from interacting at various levels of our structure with the public. But a guidance, when given, it doesn't mean that everyone will heed that. But generally, I can now tell you that many times when statements have to be given, by party structure, including by members of parliament, when they do have those media engagements, those statements, are shared with the media directorate of the party or with, because when you share with the media directorate, you are sharing it with our office, the Office for Party Spokesperson. So really, what goes in here, what has to be understood is that it's not every statement we are going to say, you, what do you want to say? You, what do you want to say? That is going to be very tedious in terms of, checking what people have to say. We will be gagging our people. We will be interfering in terms of their freedom of speech. And we are not tired, Andrew, to see that when a statement that has been issued is not representative of the party, quickly we come to the fore and let the nation know the party position.
There's been so much political damage that has come to your name after Mweetwa Member of Parliament issued that statement. Is it going to be disciplined for denting the image of the party? Because you saw that this whole week what has been trending is what he said. And in fact, it fits in so well that coincidentally, even at the Patriotic Front Secretariat just yesterday, UPND members went to beat up innocent citizens, all in the name of belonging to the ruling party. First of all, will you discipline the Mweetwa Member of Parliament for denting the image of the party to this gravity?
Well, first of all, in politics, it's like in the kitchen. You can't avoid the heat if you want to cook in there. So, in politics, there will be these occurrences. And, Andrew, why are you forgetting this fundamental that I have put on the table? That the moment the Mweetwa Member of Parliament issued that statement, the Secretary General immediately held a presser to which the entire media corps, including Diamond, covered, and I think Diamond covered live, where the Secretary General nullified that statement. So that statement, as things stand now, is null and void. It's as if it were not said, because a party position has been given, and that was an emotive reaction given the circumstances. If the party had not reacted, I think it would have merited that we could keep on talking about, the Wengwa Member of Parliament said this, now this is coincidental. There is no coincidence here because the party pronounced itself and distanced itself, and you have seen that relevant moving there from that statement. The party did not associate with that statement, and I'm sure in future you will not see statements of that nature.
Even when the party distanced itself from the statement, the content of the statement is what we saw yesterday, that Caderism is back under your watch, Minister.
Well, I want to indicate here that a political party is like a family. And in a family, there will be one or two naughty children. But specifically talking about what happened yesterday at the Patriotic Front Secretariat, just like we indicated this morning at the presser, that was uncalled for, that was unfortunate, that was regrettable. And as a party in government, we condemn in the strongest possible terms such kind of political insolence, such kind of political misconduct, such kind of Caderism of violence, which stands at variance with what President Hakainde Hichilema has pronounced himself to stand for, in that he abhors, he detests violence. That is the party position. That is government position. And that is why we've pronounced ourselves that, notwithstanding that those assailants or perpetrators donned themselves or were wearing regalia, which is UPND, there is no genuine follower of President Hakainde Hichilema who goes against his directive, because this is a presidential directive. And so those people, whoever their sponsor is, we have called on the police to swiftly and urgently conclude investigations, because we know they are already investigating, as to who their true identity is. And I'm not here to begin finger pointing. I'm saying whoever they were, they violated the law of the land, and the long arm of the law will reach out to them so that they can account. And insofar as the law is concerned, the law does not know any political affiliation. The law does not know you wearing a particular color and think that that is immunity to legal prosecution. No. The president has used this term, that those who are going to violate the law, those who are going to perform Caderism of political violence, you are on your own. We expect the police to quickly bring to book the ringleaders and also the perpetrators, so that they are used as an example. For us who worked to ensure that this party forms government after a long journey of toiling, and having been victims of political violence at the behest or hands of the previous administration's political cadres who were wielding pangas and guns, we are resolute under the guidance of the President Hakainde Hichilema, that there is no room for political violence. We do believe that what we have now, in terms of what President HH has done in the last 4 years, in terms of the restoration of the rule of law, maintenance of public peace and order in markets and bus stops, and also his robust economic transformation agenda. This far, what he has been able to achieve, even in the midst of the challenge of load shedding, which is the elephant in the room presently in Zambia that is affecting normal living. We believe that on the pecking order of those things that President HH has done, he has scored highly on the maintenance of rule of law, and we have enough and what it takes to get to be re-elected next year if only we can behave, even with load shedding, which I know, and we may talk about it, government is putting intervention measures. This far, the citizens of this country are happy and proud that President HH has restored normalcy and worked towards eradication of political violence. And with that in hand, and what the president has delivered this far, we think we have sufficient ground to negotiate for a second term, which we believe the president will win easily and with a bigger landslide. But if some people are going to be donned in our party regalia, I can tell you, Zambians will not take us, or let me put it inversely. We know that we should not take Zambians for granted. Zambians detest violence. One of the reasons they voted out Patriotic Front was violence. Who do we think we are? To bring back the same thing that saw PF out and think we are an exemption. That is why we are very clear, and the message is clear out there. Whoever is involved, they are on their own. Police should also not do their usual censorship.
But are you aware that Caderism is back, Minister? I'm now asking you this question, that are you aware that those videos, that video that we saw, and the many videos that we haven't seen tonight, are just but a few that have been documented. There are several instances where clearly your cadres have been threatening the people in the markets, even at Intercity, and I saw this firsthand, Minister. I'd gone to Intercity a month ago. I saw several cadres of the UPN clad in your regalia, moving around like bosses and, threatening the people. And I'm asking this honest question to you, Minister. Are you aware that on the ground, Caderism is back?
I'll answer it straight. Caderism, in the honest and pure sense that the people of Zambia know it to mean violence, has not yet returned. If you have a few people wearing UPND party regalia, moving like bosses the way you have said it, that is an indication of a grouping abusing a party in office, which I'm saying is not representative of a party position. But to say Caderism has returned in the sense, ordinary and literal sense, that Zambians know Caderism to represent political violence, to represent pangas, to represent guns, to represent bloodshed, to represent oozing of blood, I will say no. And I will say, can you produce to me...
How are you addressing...
Can you produce to me videos of citizens who have been hacked by pangas, by anyone wearing UPND?
And I mentioned to you that the videos you've seen are just but very, very small videos that have been very small packages of videos being documented.
But Andrew, before you ask me the next question, I also want to ask you one question. You knew that when there was political violence in this country, you didn't need to say there are few documented instances. It was for all to see because of technology. Now, social media, whatever happens, there is nothing to hide. People will show, this one has been beaten. Oh, this one is wielding a panga like we were seeing. People shoot videos with pangas threatening to go and hack people. Why, if there is a return of political violence, are we not seeing those videos? Let us say this,
besides
that political violence has not returned in the sense it was, and that we as government and a party in government, under the able leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema, and with his guidance, there will be no return to political violence. There will be no looking back. We don't want to go back to those dark days when civil servants, when they go to planning to go to the office, you really have to choose which color of your clothes to wear because you'll be accused of being opposition, or you're seated in your office, a bunch of cadres storming your office.
As we conclude on this topic of political violence and the return of Caderism, I think the biggest problem here, Honourable, that you seem to be avoiding not to address, yes, the President made a very clear directive of the party and of government that there would not be Caderism. But what is being done, Minister, from the side of government, from the side of your party, to ensure that there's no return of Caderism? I will tell you the complaints that the UPND cadres have, that they used to admire the lifestyle of those that were in the Patriotic Front, and they thought that once the Patriotic Front exits office, whatever was happening at Intercity, whatever was happening at different markets and bus stations, the new party now, the UPND, will take over. Let me put it this way. These cadres say that they haven't been empowered by your party and by government. And that's why, they seem to be agitated and want the return of Caderism.
Well, first of all, we must put things very clear. Caderism, in the sense of supporting a political party and its ideas, is welcome. And UPND cannot survive as a political party without cadres. No political party out there can survive without cadres, because these are a representation of the physical human beings who publicly profess who they are in relation to the party they support. But Caderism, which transcends affiliation for support of a party and its ideas and or its leader into violence, is inexcusable. There will be no time when, as UPND, we shall say, because our supporters or cadres have not been empowered. If that were the case, then there's justification for them to become violent.
Have you empowered your cadres?
No.
Have you empowered your cadres?
That is inexcusable. Coming to empowerment, and I also speak generally, we must understand this, Andrew. When President HH was being elected by the citizens, I'll tell you, we are very clear in our minds. He was not elected just by our cadres only. He was elected by citizens at large.
Are you taking care of your cadres?
I am answering in the broader sense, because sometimes when we narrow our perceptions to political interest perceptions, we miss the point. President HH is president for all. And therefore, the cake that is available to be shared has to be put on an open table for all citizens to share. And I'll tell you this, that the greatest beneficiaries of the leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema are the young people. You know this story very well because you're in the media, that about or more than 100,000 public service jobs created under the New Dawn administration within 4 years, unprecedented.
Have you empowered your foot soldiers? Those that were going to campaign for yourself and President Hakainde?
I'm answering your question.
Because these are the ones that we're seeing now.
I'm answering your question, Andrew. Allow me also to say that 100,000 we are talking about plus is just public service jobs. A lot of jobs have been created by a number of private sector investments that have boomed in this country, that add up to youth employment. But let me not skate around your question. Your question is, have we empowered our cadres? I'll be very sincere with you. We are empowering Zambians. When we went to form government, we didn't have a certain a group that we said this will give preference. And you also mentioned that have we empowered those who campaigned for HH in 2026? What about you, who is not a cadre of UPND, but you know that this president means well, he has restored the rule of law, he has done debt restructuring, He is on an aggressive economic recovery, transformative agenda. And the country now, you can see that the major macroeconomic fundamentals, inflation, interest rates, the price of fuel, price of commodities are going down. The dollar kwacha and other convertible.
The question is very simple, Minister.
Going down.
Why have you abandoned your party members and party
And
cadres?
I want to tell you, we have not abandoned our party members, except we don't have an agenda to say, because these are our people, we are just going to treat them as a special group to the exclusion of the rest of the citizens. We are first ensuring that the national cake must be shared equally. And our people are part and parcel of the beneficiaries in that national cake. And I'll tell you that a number of our people, okay, a number, not all, a number, are beneficiaries just like anybody else in CDF, loans, CDF grants. We had the market booster loans. We have CEC, loans and other empowerment programs. You have seen Honorable Elvis Nkandu yesterday.
Could it be the reason for why the return rate has been very poor, because you've been giving cadres loans under CDF? I was speaking to the minister responsible for local government, and he told me that he's failing to collect monies that has been given to these young people.
But you are the one who has been telling me on this platform that we have failed to take care of our cadres.
And you're telling me that you've given your cadres CDF, and I'm asking you that could it be the reason for why?
That's not what I've said, Andrew. I have said our cadres, just like anybody else, have had the opportunity to get these empowerment programs.
Which includes CDF loans.
Which includes CDF loans, and the consolation is that in quite a number of districts, constituencies, or local authorities,
and I think my question was,
the party does not have members of parliament. So are you saying we are there to give our people? So Zambians are benefiting.
Minister, the elephant in the room is load shedding. Zambians now are getting 2 hours of power every day. Sometimes in 48 hours, they'll not get any electricity at all. We're 10 months into an election, Minister. Don't you think this is political suicide? Number one, politically, but also, are you a heartless government that has decided not to care about Zambians?
Well, first of all, it has to be understood at the outset that there is a cause-effect relationship in terms of our power situation in the country. I was in South Africa myself some 3 years ago on a team with members of other political parties, wherein we experienced load shedding of the likes or even worse as is obtaining in this country. In the hotel where we were, several times we could get locked up in the lift because of load shedding. So what is happening here is not a new phenomenon in the region, because this region, remember, arising from the worst drought we have faced in living memory. The entire region, there is no single country which has excess power. And us were actually one of those that, had hit. Therefore, to characterize us as being a heartless government is not fair, because we could only be heartless if we had power and we are deciding not to make it available to our people. The people know why we've reached to this level.
The people don't know. You told the people that under the previous administration that when we had power for 10 hours, President Hakainde Hichilema called that as lack of leadership. Now we're only having power. At least under the Patriotic Front, we had power for 10 hours.
I want to...
And under your government, Minister, we're having power for 2 hours. Isn't that
heartless?
No, even more than heartless. You lack leadership, Minister.
I want to tell you this, Andrew, that first of all, for you to find a description of this government, you should look at the variables that are on the table. One, what is the cause of this load shedding or power deficit? We know that the drought of 2023 into 2024 has been the worst in living memory in the entire region. So, to compare us to the previous administration, they didn't face that particular drought in terms of deficit of power, deficit of water, deficit of even food. So we are actually in two different areas here. Secondly, you have also to take recognition that once President HH came into power, he pushed robustly to increase our generation capacity by bringing on stream 750 plus 12 megawatts, Kafue Gorge Lower, whose 5 turbines, as of August 2021, only one was functional because the 4 were not turned on because ZESCO was owing Sino Hydro and we were unable to have that particular installation to begin to produce power despite being installed. And President HH, within a turnaround time from August 2021 to November 2022, in November 2022, he went to commission the firing of all the 5 turbines, meaning we added a 750 plus 12 megawatts. What am I talking about? I'm saying Zambia's installed capacity right now for electricity generation by ZESCO stands at 3,885, with the national average demand standing at 2,430, meaning therefore that if we had sufficient rains, sufficient water in our dam reservoirs, with the installed capacity and the power that we are supposed to generate, we should not have been talking about load shedding. No, we shouldn't. Presently, ZESCO only generates 1,554 out of the 3,885, generating capacity. So meaning we are at less than half that kind of power generation. We also have independent power producers who are producing about 295 megawatts of power, and bringing the total therefore with the ZESCO 1,554 to 1,849.
How much do you think the Zambian people love you, Minister?
Love who?
Love you as a government.
Well,
from 2 years ago, when the issue of load shedding started, Minister, you've been explaining from 2 years ago, and the situation has only been getting but worse.
I can tell you this. This is not a love affair.
And I'm wondering how you walk with your head high, Minister.
I can tell you.
You are in Mwansa the past few weeks. I don't know how you are walking with your head high, knowing that your people are lot shedded for sometimes more than 2 days.
I can tell you what we must be talking about right now, that if there is something that this government had done or not done leading to load shedding, then I would say we are culpable. For now, I have shown you that from the time this government has come in, our electricity generation by ZESCO has increased. 2, the real problem, and we must face facts here, is that 60 years of Zambia's independence, this is the first government to invest in alternative power generation from electricity-driven power generation, which has been the mindset of many governments before, not until we experienced the worst drought in living memory. And President HH said, with this catastrophe right in front of us, let us flip the coin into an opportunity. And this government started by first introducing law reforms to ensure that ZESCO does away with the monopoly of power generation, power evacuation, power distribution, and sale of power in this country. And today, if that was not done, would have been in a worse off situation, because the independent power traders are importing into this country 358 megawatts.
What is worse than having 2 hours of power? Minister, explain to the Zambians what is worse off than having 2 hours of power? Because your people, Minister, are having only 2 hours of power daily. What productivity can one get in 2 hours? Sometimes even this power comes after midnight when people are sleeping, Minister.
And I want to put it this way, because this is a matter of which is affecting, all of us and affecting, our people out there. And I want to say, the government does empathize with our people. A lot of people have been put out of business. A lot of people have been put out of employment because their employer is no longer productive to generate money to pay them. But is there something this government is not doing? Is there an effort this government is not doing?
Looks like there's no effort.
Let me tell you that there is effort, because this government is promoting alternative power generation. And you have seen a number of solar grids come on board. Just a few weeks ago, the president was commissioning the Chibombo, power, is it Chisamba? Power, solar power, 100 megawatts, and that they are now doing phase 2, another 100 megawatts, and that within a turnaround period of 7 to 8 months, that another 100 megawatts will come on stream. Additionally, Mamba Collieries is producing 300 megawatts. And as of August 2021, Mamba Collieries had a plan to build phase 2, Mamba Collieries thermal power, another 300 megawatts of power. But they were owed not less than 590 million United States dollars by ZESCO and therefore government, and could not actualize their plans to build phase 2. And I want to tell you that President HH, once we have had this situation, worked aggressively, to ensure that he brought the private sector on board to mobilize resources, and monies were brought together to be able to allow or make possible Mamba Collieries, who are now on schedule within this 2026 to add another 300 megawatts of power. With the deficit we are talking about of power in this country, when you add that 300 megawatts thermal from Mamba Collieries and a number of solar grids which are coming on board, you saw the wonderful group of companies that are standing in the M phase in the Chilanga Kafue area that are coming. I think they are putting about, if my mind serves me right, about 80 to 100 megawatts of power to power their industry. And within that, there is 45 megawatts of power excess to their estimated demand, which they are saying they will evacuate into the national grid to boost the power. We expect, Andrew, that with all these interventional measures coming into place, our situation, we are not going to reach August next year in the present situation. But also, we are praying that we do have good rains, because meteorological experts have told us that this year we are likely to have beyond normal rains.
I attended the press briefing you had, Minister, in February, and we thought what the height of load shedding, at least then we're getting 6 hours of power. And you sympathized with us, and you gave us a timeline that with all these interventions, and you listed down what government is doing in the background to ensure that it addresses this deficit of electricity. And you gave a timeline that by June we should see some form of normalcy, getting into the power situation. June came, Minister. The situation was going bad. July, bad. August, bad. September, bad. October, bad. We're now in November. It's now worse because people are having 2 hours of power. You give us a projection. And here, Minister, you're explaining all these big figures that you're giving us of what government is doing, the solar plants that government intends to put across the country. But what people are interested in to hear from you, Minister, are the results. And people are not seeing the results. You've been explaining from January what you're doing, but zero results, Minister.
Well, I want to clarify this. Firstly, when I was talking about the expected load shedding to subside, I was asked a question at a media engagement. And we are right in the midst of a rainy season. And my answer was simple and straightforward. I said, where I am here, I cannot tell when load shedding will come to an end because we are waiting to be informed by expert researched information. All they have told us this far, then that time, was that they had to wait for at least 3 months of the rainy season for the water to reach our, dam reservoirs. And when they have seen the water level reach a certain level, they are now able to give an estimation of when load shedding was going to begin to subside, given the water levels and projected power, production. And I said, but from where I stand, all factors being equal, meaning that we are going to have expected, waters. I said, we do expect the situation to begin to improve by June, all factors being equal. But we do realize that whereas we had a rainy season that posted a bigger or super bumper harvest, we did not have enough water to reach to levels of electricity generation that would mitigate the situation. Because experts, when you ask them, they will tell you that when the waters have reached the lowest ebb, and we are told in this circumstance of the national disaster and emergency situation that our water levels in Kafue, Kariba, Itezhi, reached historical low levels. And you did not need just one rainy season, but more than 1, 2, or 3 to stabilize the water.
So you are wrong. You have suggested that if all things are held constant and are equal, that will be the result. You are wrong, Minister,
I was not wrong. I was not wrong because we are in the midst of a rainy season, and I was saying we are waiting for expert information and all factors being equal, meaning everything going normally, which was not the case. And the point I was trying to make is that I've heard some bizarre explanation that how come we had a bump harvest, but electricity is in deficit. The moisture content you need to grow maize is not the same water levels you need to produce power.
You are wrong to suggest that there's going to be some form of normalcy in the load shedding situation.
I was giving an estimation.
Your estimation was wrong.
My job is to give an estimation, and I caveated it by saying we are waiting for expert information.
So now you've given a projection that by August the situation will be different. What information are you relying on?
I am saying right now, government has put a number of interventional measures in terms of alternative power generation. A number of solar grids are coming on board. We have Mamba collieries, thermal power coming on board. And we are now into a rainy season wherein meteorological experts have told us we are going to have normal to beyond maybe average rain. And I said, we pray that we do have more water. There is an adage, actually, which, back home, me where I come from, that it's better to have floods than a drought. Because in a flood, people eat. In terms of electricity, in a flood, you have electricity, and in a drought, you have no electricity. This situation is now at a place where government is putting alternative measures, and we also have a rainy season that is promising. It is my wish, and your wish too, I believe, that we get out of this situation, because this is not about political gain. Even if another political party had to come in August 2021, which will not happen, they are going to be faced with this same situation, and even worse off, because the pragmatic and robust interventional measures that this president has put in place and the attractiveness of this country to woo investment, even in this sector, the predictability of the regime may not be the same. That is one side. The other side is Look at all what has been achieved under this particular president, HH, which now stands in the midst or in the fog, being blared by this load shedding. Are we saying we should throw the child with bathwater? No. We have this situation where we have electricity deficit in the country, and the people have not forgotten that we are still trying to climb out of the worst debilitating drought in living memory, and therefore this does not, and there is no evidence of failure of leadership given what the government has put in place in law reform and the resultant investments in the sector.
You know the principle of consistency. How is it that when your friends were in government, you called them load shedding the Zambians as lack of leadership, but you don't want to have that, posed on your leadership as a UPND?
I'll answer that very simple. The reason why we were saying that is because we were aware that Zambia, at the time, two things. One, we had invested into power generation installations which the government was failing to pay for, which President HH, once he came in, within a turnaround period of less than 1 year, he paid, ZESCO was on schedule, paying Sino, and we had an additional 750 plus 12 megawatts. That is what we are referring to. Can you point to one single alternative power, say solar, that the previous administration told the people of Zambia that we are now encouraging investment in this alternative power generation source in order to add to our generation capacity of electricity in the event that we don't have sufficient power, given that traditionally we have been a monopoly of power producing from hydro.
They're talking about the nuclear plant in Chongwe. They're talking about the nuclear plant that they're going to set up in Chongwe. And in fact, they blame you that if you had continued on that path, this country would not have found itself in this situation.
You know what? I think that it would be fair for me not to begin to attack our colleagues, because we are not here to say they did this or not. We are acknowledging one fact, that if consistent going backwards, say 20 years backwards, even during MMD, if there was an iota of thought that one day we shall not have sufficient rains, then with all this huge electricity generation installed capacity, we will not generate enough. Therefore, let's invest in alternative power. Today, we would not have been talking about this. I'll tell you, the investments that are coming through in terms of alternative power generation today will yield results and benefit maybe even after the UPND may no longer be in office. I don't know, maybe 30 years from now. I'm just giving an example. So that is what the real problem, Andrew, is. It is about that this is the first time we are now coming head to head with a reality that we are not going to depend on hydropower. We have to invest in alternative power.
As we conclude, the two big issues Zambians are complaining about daily. If I open the phone lines, Minister Mweetwa, I don't think that there would be anyone that would be happy for you load shedding them and for you increasing the prices of commodities. God blessed us with, good to above normal rainfall in the previous season that saw our country have a bumper harvest. In fact, you had announced, Minister, that we're going to be, exporting surplus maize to the region. Initially, the plan by your government was that if we have enough maize, using the law of supply and demand, this will ensure that the price of maize and mealie meal goes down and the people are going to benefit, out of the bumper harvest. But Minister, what your government has done is to decide to sell surplus maize instead of cheapening the price of mealie meal. What are your priorities?
Thank you, Andrew. I think that it's a very good question because it gives me the platform to indulge our citizens. Firstly, we have to begin from a premise that agriculture is not a mere subsistence activity. It is a business, but a business involved in the production of a staple food. Therefore, there must be this calculated balance between national food security, which is national security, and also the need to stimulate those who produce maize to continue, because maize doesn't come from nowhere. There are people who invest into it to ensure that it is produced. And that is why before 2021, when President HH took over government, you realize that even when we had good rains, our maize production levels consistently were going down, because the priority of the previous administration in terms of agriculture then was in the promotion of aquaculture and the promotion of production of soybeans, as evidenced by the price of soybeans then. So a farmer who is in farming as a business will produce enough maize for their household food security and then produce soybeans to make money. This government, realizing the needs to produce more maize for national food security and also regional food security, encouraged farmers to return to the production of maize. And how did that happen? The maize price had to be increased from 160 kwacha in 2021 to now 340 kwacha in 2025. And that is why you have seen this boom into the production of maize. And having produced so much maize, the government encouraged farmers to sell to FRA out of the realization and experience that during the year of the drought, it is the maize that farmers sold to FRA that saved the situation. But additionally also, FRA were offering a better price than, private grain dealers or buyers who just stationed by the roadside. They were buying a bag 50 kg, maybe 200 kwacha, or if it is choma, even as low as 180 kwacha. And in instances, you find this private buyer will buy this maize at 180 kwacha, 200, and stockpile and quickly wait for FRA to open, go and sell that maize, make more money than a farmer. Now, here is the issue you are talking about. The government intended to purchase, as contained in the national budget of 2025, 543,000 metric tons of maize. But because the farmers produced more at the instigation of government, and because farmers like to work with this government, and they produced more, and then government said, no, you sell to FRA. And they agreed because they know that FRA was offering a better price, and also that when they sell to FRA, in the event of misadventure of drought, FRA will save the situation. Farmers took 1,667,921 metric tons to FRA, which is 3 times than what the budget for 2025 was in terms of purchase of maize. Now, government said, because we are the ones who promoted maize production, let us buy this maize and we look into sources to handle this. Now, the national food, what we have produced this year, which is above 3.2 thousand metric tons, is beyond the national food average by 2 times more. So what do you do with the excess? What you need at your home, Andrew, you may need maybe, say, a 25 kg of mini meal per month. Now, if I were to donate, just as an example, 3 bags per month, and in a year, times 12, maybe there are 46 bags. for which you have no immediate use, what are you going to do with those bags? You have to find a way of disposing them so that you get value out of them. There is no business in government or FRA stockpiling maize way above what is required, especially when experts have told us that we are going to have good rains again, meaning we must prepare for more maize. And I must also say that the president has said this time and again, our storage capacity, not just as a country, but as a region, is limited. And we are now placing premium to increasing our storage capacity, that when we have a bumper harvest, we must store maize that can last at least not less than another additional 2 farming season to the one you are in. So this maize that we are exporting, and 200,000 metric tons to Malawi, the contract is already in place and it is on board, and we do expect another 200,000.
Would this result, Minister, into
DRC?
Would this result into the price of milk getting down? Because I think that was what my question was.
Well, first of all, the price of milk cannot just drop, Andrew, because a lot of maize has been produced. A lot of maize was produced with an attendant production cost. And if you check what government has done this year, the government just increased maize price by 10 kwacha. Because if we had increased like we've done before by 80 kwacha or by 100 kwacha, imagine what the price of minimum would have been.
Do you have a target under which you want to see price of minimum to go down to before the elections?
Well, first of all, we are not targeting elections. We are targeting doing the right things.
The reason why I ask elections is because that's when your 5-year cycle comes to an end. It's within your time cycle.
Government is a going concern. When you do things focusing on an election, this is what costs a country in the long term, because government is a going concern. When you're in business of government, you should know that you are not there forever. But the things you should do should inform the next decisions that should be made by yourselves in your second term or another government relevant going forward. If we are going to say our planning should end at 2026, it will be an absurdity, because then those who get elected into office will be doing things to satisfy the maturity of political appeasement that their vote is ready to retain them. President HH is not that kind of a president. And I'll tell you now that 10 kwacha, farmers didn't complain because they realized that we are just graduating out of this drought, the most debilitating, and therefore 10 kwacha increase was okay. If you have seen the impact, minimum price has actually not gone up, it has gone down. But minimum prices will not just drop drastically because of one farming season. It has to be consistent production. And in this consistent production is to saturate the local demand, but also use it.
What is your political message? Obviously, it was contained in your manifesto of how you intend to, bring down the bag of milk. And do you have a figure?
Yes.
What's the figure?
You have asked me what was our political strategy. Maybe it's political, but maybe really
as a
manifesto measure. The measure was, first of all, lower the cost of production. Because when you lower the cost of production, you lower the cost of maize and minimum relevant going forward as a result of the low cost of production. And to answer to that, this is what this government has done. You have now seen that NCZ has invested 6.8 million United States dollars, giving it capacity production of fertilizer from 70,000 metric tons to 432,000 metric tons. United Capital Fertilizer is now has positioned Zambia as a net exporter of fertilizer. We are exporting to Namibia, we're exporting to Botswana, we're exporting to many countries in the region, having saturated and satisfied the local market demand. When we produce both beso and top dressing and lower the cost of production, this year, the lower footing in terms of price of fertilizer is 750. Last year it was 870. When fertilizer price continues to go down and also seed price keeps going down, low cost of production will inform a low cost of maize and a low cost of mini meal, translating into a low cost of living. That is the road we are on, and we need to support this president to reach to where we want to get to.
Minister, Costa cross-examination now adjourned. Thank you so much for making the time to appear on Costa tonight.
Thank you for having me, and we're grateful for the job you're doing to giving us the platform to interact with the citizens so that we are held accountable to them for the mandate they gave us. Thank you.
Minister responsible for information and media, Chief Government Spokesperson and UPND Spokesperson Cornelius Mweetwa was our guest on Costa tonight. My name is Andrew Mwansa. See you next time.